Hello. Wouldn't be the Joy Journey podcast if I was not singing at the beginning, let's be honest. Oh, you guys, what a big month, what a big week, what a big day. Actually, today marks my 10 years sobriety. And as you know, this month we've been diving deep into homecoming and what that truly means. Sobriety for me was the doorway that absolutely cracked my life wide open in the best way possible. It is what brought me home to myself and what allowed me to literally birth all of this joy work in the world. In this episode, I share the top 10 lessons that I learned from sobriety and the truth about where I was and what actually shifted so that I could live a life of presence and peace and purpose. And so, if you have ever felt stuck or ashamed or far away from yourself, this one is for you, my friend. This one is for you. Hey there, it's Jillian, your guide to all things joy. And this is the Joy Journey Podcast. Oh my God. Hello, Joy Warriors. Woo! I already have full shivers. Woo, hole mole. Okay, today's a big day, and I know I should not have put bottom mascara on. What was I thinking? I already feel the emotions bubbling up. I'm just gonna allow them to flow instead of prefacing every time I'm about to cry that I'm going to cry. It's like I try to take myself out of the emotion. So just bear with me. I'm hopeful that with all of our episodes, you may feel like laughing or crying along with me. And that's just amazing. So this one's a real and raw one. It's a really powerful day, month, year, I guess. Like 10 years feels like quite a lot of time to steep in some really powerful lessons. And I could not let this day go by without actually honoring it by sharing with you the lessons that I've learned through my addiction and also mostly through my 10 years of sobriety. So I feel like I've got so much to share. I've got a few notes to kind of keep us on track. But before I dive in, I do want to just thank you. I want to thank every person who has walked alongside me this past 10 years. I want to thank my husband, my family, my dear soul sisters and friends, clients. You are soulfully aligned clients as well, and fellow facilitators, team members, everyone. Your love and support means so much. And it has allowed me to honor the pain that I did move through, to glean the power and share it with you all now. And that's a really, really big deal. And I actually feel that's what we're all here to do in one version or another. So thank you. This month, again, we've been talking about homecoming. And for me, that was what sobriety was, the opportunity to come back home to myself, to stop numbing, to start feeling, to uncover the joy and the vibrancy that was buried underneath of years of forgetting, years of grief and despair, suffering, struggle, shame, all of it. And where I choose to be in chaos. And I would say choose honestly, because there are elements of this that were choices. If we say we want peace, we get to choose the opportunity to take peaceful action. I can look back with so much compassion and see where I was diving deep into drama. I think that's another form of addiction, to be honest with you. But I was used to the chaos. I was used to disconnection. And where that used to exist, there now lives peace and presence and purpose. And so my life is not perfect by any means, but I've learned that that is not the point. The point is returning again and again to joy, actually. And so if you have been feeling far away from yourself for whatever reason, I get it. That distance can feel so far, actually so far, and so impossible to bridge sometimes. But the truth is, we can always come home. And sometimes all it takes is the courage to pause, to get honest with ourselves, and then be brave enough to choose differently. May that be what you take. Well, you're going to take away whatever the heck you want to take away. I'm not going to control it, but I hope if there's one thing that this may be a reminder for you in those places, in those shadowy or tender places. So it's been 10 years since I had my last drink. And To be honest, I actually don't even think about it unless there's something really stressful happening in my life or something that I want to really escape or numb. And then I think, oh, it would be so nice to have a drink. But even in my mind, I don't have one. Anyone in recovery with me, and you have to message me and tell me that you experience this too, but I will mentally have a drink and then I'm already chasing the dragon and knowing like it would be not just one, it would be many. And then I would be back in the cycle and then I would be back in the shadow and then I wouldn't have access to joy. And I just play it out and then I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm not doing that. I'm actually just going to sit and breathe, take those 90 seconds and breathe through this moment and then get to the other side and just know and trust that I'm meant to move through these things. So, what I do remember about drinking is not so much the drinking itself, it was the shame, actually. It was so much obsession about how I could control it. You know, if I could just have more water, or tonight I won't have any drinks, or I'll just have one. So much obsession about how I could control my problem. And so much disconnection and silent suffering. Always feeling bad about myself, wondering why I couldn't just get my shit together. I had tried to control my drinking for years until I just could not do it anymore. I chose sobriety after what I call my 3 dark nights of the soul. And I knew in that moment that nothing would ever be the same again. It makes me so emotional to go back there. If you heard episode 1, I shared briefly about this, and it never is not emotional because I have so much compassion to that aspect of me, to that woman who was just doing her best and just did not know what was possible on the other side of all of that pain. And that is the moment that I came back home to myself. That was the moment that everything that I desired, that I was truly seeking at the deepest level, actually became possible. Whew. Taking a swig of coffee. You guys, I resisted this episode so hard. I did not even want to record it. And I know, and tell me if you experience the same thing, the more resistance, the more power. I didn't, I could sense how emotional this would be and probably didn't want to feel that. But it also feels so good to honor all of it and to just feel it and to friggin' cry on a podcast publicly. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Before we jump into the top 10 lessons, the top 10 lessons that I've learned through 10 years of sobriety, I want to talk about sobriety in general. There's some really important things here, and I can sense some of you listening you really get me. You really get this experience. Maybe it was like booze or drugs, and you can understand it from that perspective. But there are other perspectives here, and it feels so important for me to share these because most of us are actually wrapped up in a cycle of addiction or disconnect. You can call it what you want: addiction, dependency, disconnection. And I feel like this could be the moment that everything gets to change for you too. So, sobriety for me is not just about the addiction or the substances. Sobriety is actually the courage to feel. I'm going to say it again. Sobriety is the courage to feel. And so while we might want to make the focus the addiction or about certain substances, the truth is that it's really just about the desire to numb, typically, to numb the pain, the truth, the suffering, the grief, or the disconnect, and simply the discomfort of humanness, which is really fucking uncomfortable sometimes. Let's just be honest. And so from this perspective, most of us are using something. Most of us are depending on something or addicted to something. Bear with me. I'm going to lovingly ask my fiery, joy wizardy dragons coming out to play today because there is no more time to waste in these cycles. You came here in this lifetime with a massive purpose, and you may not know what that is. The truth is, it's meant to be unfolded. Perhaps the pain you've been experiencing is your power, just like mine. And what it requires is you to walk through it to get to the other side of it. And again, I'm going to get emotional because once you can do that, I've got a team of 30 more than 30 joy facilitators who've done the same thing. and are shining their light in the world, but it's not just all bright and shiny. It literally required them to walk through so much shadow, so much suffering, so much discomfort. But on the other side is all of the joy that most of us are seeking. And that is literally the point of this podcast. So I ask you, what are you using to avoid discomfort? Is it scrolling? Is it sugar? Is it sex or shopping? Is it spending? Is it gambling? Is it drama? The drama of the people around you? Is it relationships? You're just continuously trying to find the right one and it's obsessing over something external. So just checking in. What are you using to avoid discomfort or numb the pain? And then on the other hand, we could be overdoing things, which I have also done. So when you find something so pleasurable that you overdo it. For me, before my dad died, I would drink to celebrate. And the problem was, especially for someone like me, there was always something to celebrate, to be celebrating. And so I was drinking all the time. And when my dad passed, that's when I talk about that feeling of like my whole world exploding as I knew it. And this was where I can look back and see where I started using alcohol to actively numb. And that's where it became really problematic for me. But I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't feel the depths of that grief. I didn't know how. No one had ever taught me how. I mean, we don't really teach feeling in our culture, which I'm attempting to change because this is where everything gets unlocked for us. So I would come home every day after work. I would have a bath and one glass of wine, which led to another and then another and then another until I was blacking out almost every single night and looking to David to see what I had done the night before. I look back at my past self with so much tenderness now. And if you're listening, if you're struggling with this cycle of shame or disconnection or numbing, I just can feel it as you're listening to me. I'm sending you so much love. You have got this. You are a badass joy warrior. So let's dive into the lessons because there's 10. There's actually so many more. But I've been curating and curating and curating and really deepening into what did I learn? What would be the most helpful thing to share with people who are maybe also trapped in the discomfort? So the interesting thing about comfort is probably one of my lessons that I'm just giving away right now. But the interesting thing about comfort is that it will actually create discomfort. Our desire for comfort will keep us uncomfortable. Ooh, is that a new lesson? Our desire for comfort will keep us uncomfortable. I'm going to pause there because I probably did write this. It's just like I feel the messages coming through and I want to share them right now, but we'll talk about that more and I'll circle back at the end. So lesson number 1, because I am very experienced in joy, but what I realized when I was prepping today's episode is I'm actually very experienced in shame because I had to move through the shame in order to experience the joy, right? The shame of my addiction and that desire to numb and keep things comfortable, which kept me and others in so much discomfort. So most of us experience shame, but most of us hang on to it so much longer than we need to. So my number 1 lesson is that shame is good for the 1 second it supports a shift. Shame is good for the 1 second that it supports a shift. Sobriety taught me to stop punishing myself for past mistakes. Compassion literally cracked me wide open. It allowed me to see that every misstep was a part of my path, actually. And it was a part of my path. It was not proof of my failure. And when I went through my rock bottom, it felt like everything was crumbling. But looking back, that rubble, that shit show that I experienced was the foundation for everything that I have built now. I didn't rush myself out of it. I let myself feel all of the things. For years, I still feel all of the things, clearly. But I had been trying to avoid those things and numb them for so many years. So I finally let myself feel them. And honoring my truth and feeling the discomfort of that was the first step. And that was so uncomfortable. When I hit rock bottom, I was reading Marianne Williamson's Law of Divine Compensation. I have it right here. Law of Divine Compensation, if you're watching on YouTube. And this book literally changed everything. I would say this felt like part of my miracle moment. And I will just read to you what I read. The ego is that which both sets you up to do the wrong thing and then punishes you viciously for having done so. It lures you into doing something stupid and then would have you believe that you're the dumbest, most irresponsible human alive for having made such a mistake. Now, it argues everything is terrible and will only be getting worse. We may have made mistakes in our past, but we are not bound by those mistakes in the present. As long as we're willing to think now as we did not think then, act now as we did not act then, clean up in the present what needs to be cleaned up from the past, and be now who we were not then. That is what changed everything for me. That was my miracle moment. My entire being flooded with compassion for myself, for all of the mistakes and missteps I had made. This allowed me to forgive myself. This was the moment where I met myself. I feel like I actually met God in that moment. And I knew that I was going to turn this horrible addiction into my power story and break cycles and generations of change to literally light up a whole new path forward for those behind me. This is why compassion is the foundation of all of the joy work that I do, because without it, most of us would hold ourselves hostage and look at the things that we've done as mistakes rather than opportunities for growth. In the Daily Joy Journal, this is where the entire concept of identifying our opportunities for growth came from. We do it every week. We practice this in the Joy Nest, in the facilitator and literally, and with all my clients, this is what we are practicing because looking at our lives like this allows us to actually stand so deeply in our power rather than our pain. Make the lessons matter. So this takes us into lesson 2. Okay. So we've got shame is good for the 1 second. It supports a shift. If you are in shame, if you are in the cycle of shame, where can you glean the lessons and take them forward and take inspired action and go listen to the Joy Method episode? Start taking inspired action, gleaning the lesson, release the shame, and move forward. This is how we shift everything. So lesson number 2 is nothing is a failure if you are learning. Okay. This is another one. I remember when I got sober and I was working in my photography and branding business, and I was like a wound without a scab. I was so tender. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of everything because I was living like, I was like raw dogging it, guys. When you are not using substances or anything to numb, you are raw dogging it. And so I was just like, oh, feeling all the things and so much fear. And I was just so nervous about everything. And my coach said to me, Coach Tanya, I love you if you're listening. You're not failing if you're failing up. And I know she heard it from someone else, but that's the person I heard it from. So I'm giving her credit there. But it's not failure if you're failing up. And that was so freeing because until that point, I'd been trapped in perfectionism and convinced that my worth lived in my performance. And letting that go shifted everything for me. And I'm hopeful it can shift for you as well. When I befriended myself, I began practicing joy and life opened up. And the invitation is simple, but I feel like it is radical. Love yourself through the bumps, through the storms, through the messy friggin' middle. That's what best friends do. And that's what you get to be for yourself. And that is what I did way back then. I friggin' best friended myself. And it changed everything when you take your own hand and say, it's okay, girl, I got you. There is nothing like that. Most of us have an inner child that's literally just crying, feeling so alone and waiting for someone to say, you're good. You can never fuck up so much that I would not love you. And I think with the programming that most of us were raised with, which is like, in order to be loved, you have to A, B, or C. That is what created so much overdoing and perfectionism. But, as adults, we get to heal that piece. So by honoring that aspect of ourselves and really seeing that piece and be like, no, I love you no matter what. We're good. There's no such thing as failure if you're failing up. And my daily practice helps me to remember this and deepen that inner knowing. Once you transmute a perceived failure, once you actually transmute a perceived failure into learning, it becomes an opportunity rather than a mistake. And with a daily commitment to seeing it and moving through it, I've come to see suffering as a teacher. Each stumble carries wisdom that I get to share with others when I've integrated it so that they don't need to fall into the same freaking hole. And I feel like, hey, when you think about how we actually learn, either it's firsthand, which often sucks, or we learn those shitty lessons, the shittiness of them, but we learn those beautiful lessons and we share them with others so that I get to grab your hand and you don't have to fall into the same hole. No, wait, there's a hole there. Here, I'll show you. Walk around, right? So this is the beauty of us sharing our light with the world and our wisdom with the world and our lessons, which we learn often through freaking failure or perceived failure or suffering. Let's dive into lesson number 3. This one is a gooder. Well, I mean, I think they're all actually pretty good. Let me know what your favorite is if you want to hit me up and let me know. Lesson 3, no one but you needs to understand your path. Where are my recovering people pleasers at? Where are my people pleaser, recovering people pleasers? Okay, the fun thing about recovery is I feel like the moment you decide to take a different path, you get to call yourself in recovery. You get to say, I'm in recovery. So recovering people pleasers. Our light can make other people uncomfortable. I've seen this, I've witnessed it, but the truth is I don't really pay attention to it. I'm not focusing on the people who are allowing jealousy or envy or fear to guide them. You can feel those things and then shift them. And that's who I want to be surrounded by, is people who are willing to see the shadow and move through it to the other side. So I know my light makes other people uncomfortable. I've had people on this podcast who said they were afraid of me because they were afraid of joy, literally. So the truth is, sobriety, or the courage to feel, when you start to feel into yourself, your life begins to change. When you start to honor how you're feeling and make your vibrancy and your light and your joy your priority, you're going to start to feel different. And people are going to notice. And some people are used to you being a dull version of yourself or a dimmed version of yourself. And so that your light might make others uncomfortable. This path, the path of the joy warrior, can feel really uncomfortable. I've witnessed this in all of my programs, whether it's 4 weeks or 7 weeks or 9 months or forever. Even with myself, I still notice this. I watch people light up and I watch them stand in the discomfort of loneliness, of judgment, and move through it to the other side, because no one needs to understand your path. When I got sober, I could see so clearly how I'd been drinking down my own feelings, my discomfort, while attempting to make those around me comfortable. Feel into that. It doesn't need to be through drinking. But in what ways are you numbing or dimming yourself to make others around you comfortable? My sobriety required me to get honest about that and to be honest about what was no longer working and have boundaries. And my boundaries were big, tall fences at first, very tall. Where I'd once been a yes person, I swung into F no person. And I actually scared my family a little, I think, because they couldn't recognize me. For the first time, I had truly met myself and no one else knew who I was. But that was my homecoming. And this is part of the homecoming. It was such a massive homecoming, and that homecoming can feel lonely. And so as you release the behaviors that no longer serve you, that kept you small or safe, and you begin to actually honor yourself and your energy and your light, you might make others uncomfortable. They may not understand why you're changing. They might even advise against it. But this is not about them. This is about you and your life and your joy. And so it might be lonely as you find your new alignment. You will have so many things as you release what no longer serves you. And, sometimes these might be people or situations. It's very varied for all of us, but what you will gain is invaluable. You will gain self-trust, self-esteem, self-respect, inner knowing that you're making your well-being a priority. Trust that you will find your people. And if you want a community, I got you. Everything's in the show notes. Check it out. And this is what we'll be practicing so deeply in the Joy Nest all together. Lesson 4 is the courage to feel the pain unlocks the joy. Ooh! When I stopped numbing, I realized that the feeling, the hard stuff, was the doorway to actually the good stuff that I was seeking. And on the other side of the grief and the shame was joy. And she was bright, guys. She was bright and shiny and big. And I realized that I was numbing joy too. I was able to see my joy ceilings, and I was so afraid that anything good in my life would be taken away. So it created so much fear, and I had to work through this fear. And I continue to work through it. Even this past summer, we moved into our dream home, dream acreage. And I noticed being afraid the house is going to burn down, or what was that sound? Or David and I both were kind of on edge at first until I realized I was meeting another joy ceiling. So if you notice this, if you are numbing your feelings or medicating your suffering, I see you. And the good news is that according to the law of attraction, you're on the right track. Okay. You're on your way to feeling better. You might just need healthier tools in order to actually experience the well being and the light that you're actually seeking. And sobriety is really, again, about the courage to feel. This is where my journey began to befriend myself, and it's where yours can begin too. So I believe in divine timing, and I just wonder and I want to ask just very clearly, are you ready to befriend yourself? And if the answer is yes, then know that you have what you need to move through the discomfort of the others and what and this and that, and actually make yourself a priority. This is what is required for joy. And again, I'm here to catch you. I've got the joy nest. We've got a soft place for you to land if this feels supportive for you as you step more fully into your light. Lesson 5. When I show up for myself, the universe shows up for me. Boom. This feels like a mic drop. This one's a little wooey, but I have so much evidence in my life and the lives of my clients and students and colleagues that this is actually true. So every time that I take responsibility for my choices, my energy, my well-being, life responds. And when I pause to notice how I'm truly feeling or journal, actually use a daily joy journal instead of pushing through and just focusing on what's in ahead of me or what needs to get done, everything changes. When I hold a boundary instead of saying yes out of guilt, when I choose rest instead of proving myself, the moment that I honor me, doors open. Synchronicities line up. The universe sweeps in and says, yo, girl, you want more of this? We're here for this. You're choosing you. You're choosing your alignment. You're choosing your light. F yes, let's amplify this. When I honor me, when I take care of myself, when I make my joy, my vibrancy, my energy, my number one priority, it's like the universe gives me a big high five. Again, if you're on video, I'm high-fiving you. High-five you right now. Let's go. Let's do this. So it's as though the universe is always waiting. And I don't think the universe is here to test us, but I do feel like the universe is here to meet us halfway. And when I show up for me, it's a signal that I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I become available for support and guidance and abundance. And it doesn't mean it's always easy. Okay. Sometimes showing up looks like snot bubbles and freaking makeup, which I can't even, like, what's going on over here? Makeup running down your face. Sometimes it looks like disappointing people. Sometimes it looks like admitting that I don't know the next step and trusting actually in the flow and in the guidance. So here's the invitation. It starts small. Start showing up more fully for yourself, even just 10% more each day. What would that look like for you? Is it joy journaling? Is it meditation? Is it some light movement? Is it breakfast? Is it a walk? What is it? How could you show up for yourself and honor yourself and your energy a little more each day and watch how life answers you back? And come and tell me how it goes, okay? Lesson 6, rest is power, not weakness. So I remember, and as I said earlier, when I rest, when I take a pause, the universe responds. In my drinking days, I equated slowing down with falling behind. I felt like if I wasn't doing, that I wasn't enough. My worth was completely wrapped up with things. And I've been actually dismantling this programming for years, and I still notice it creep up, but I'm so much better at it, especially as a manifester who's meant to rest 80% and work 20. So I'm learning this, but I think we're all actually manifestors. And I'm here to tell you, rest is friggin' power. Stopping and pausing and coming back home to yourself is a way in which to actually experience sustainable success. Because success is not success if it doesn't bring you and your friggin' joy along for the ride, right? That's what I know to be true. We could have a whole another episode on defining success. I actually have a joy session on it called Setting Yourself Up for Success. And the truth is, what I know is I work with millionaires who aren't feeling good because they've left themselves at the side of the road through the success, through the journey, through the doing. So rest is how we actually integrate and bring ourselves along. Rest is not weakness. It's a friggin' power move. Pausing is how I personally stay aligned. Okay. So rest gives me room to notice what's really going on. It allows me to catch the signals before I spiral. So I think of rest as like and pausing as a rumble strip on the road instead of being in the ditch because you didn't notice the signs and you didn't stop long enough to pay attention. You get to stop and pause and check in. So it feels like this gentle nudge to course correct actually before you're again in the ditch rolling down the side of the freaking mountain. So when I pause, I realign. Life gets less dramatic, it gets less chaotic. And instead of grinding from exhaustion, I move from vibrancy. I just felt the full shivers. Can you imagine that? Imagine instead of grinding, you're moving from vibrancy. This is overflowing energy. It's what I'm here to teach. And I can't wait for you to experience it too. So that's a real power move. Okay. And I've also learned that true service doesn't come from depletion. I believe it was Rayanne Woodchatz who said, that service is no longer service when it turns into sacrifice. And I've said this to people and you just watch their whole face change. So I really want you to feel this one. Our healers and helpers and beautiful givers and nurturers. You're doing so much for everyone, but service is no longer service when it turns into sacrifice. And so if you are in sacrifice, if you are giving from depletion, you are not actually serving. True service means giving from overflow. How do we light up the world from the inside out? Actually, because freaking airplane mask, if you give the other firefly in the field your light, well, now you're dim. So now who's going to light you up? Yeah. So I overflow my energy, I overflow my light, and I give to you from my overflow. And that way we all get to friggin' light it up together. Okay. So the intention is to give from a place of fullness, not emptiness. And that's profit-minded living, my friends. Okay. Abundance that grows because it's fueled by joy, not scarcity. Abundance fueled by joy is profit. Ooh, that just came through. I feel like that was another freaking lesson or needs to be on a t-shirt. I got to go back and listen to that one. This is what I hope to inspire in the world, okay? Vibrancy and lighting it up from the inside out. That is our goal. Speaking of which, lesson number 7, joy is an inside job. We're getting there. So we light up the world from the inside out. And if you really want to make an impact, you start by noticing and honoring your own energy. I was really touching on this on the last one, but joy isn't about waiting for the right conditions. It's about choosing to align, to breathe, and to show up for you first. And I know for some of us that feels selfish. You've got programming that it's got to be about everyone else. I would say that's literally a trauma response. What about it gets to be about you first and that is selfful and that's actually serving you, your family, your community, and the world. So there's a new way and it requires us to put ourselves first, to make our joy a priority. This is not selfish. It's the foundation. Your joy ripples outward. And that's where true impact begins. Boom. Okay, lesson 8. Letting go of making everything okay makes it more okay. Letting go of making everything okay makes it more okay. For so much of my life, I focused on smoothing things over, on keeping everyone happy, on fixing whatever felt messy. But here's the truth. The more I tried to rescue and fix, the heavier everything became because I was friggin' lifting it. And that's not what we're here to do. My life force was gone. My blood pressure was off the charts. My boundaries, well, what boundaries? I didn't have any. And honestly, no one even felt supported. The people I was lifting didn't even feel supported. I found that out. I remember my mom saying, after years of me trying to help in quotations, that it actually felt disrespectful to her. And that was so freeing for me because I realized I was actually trying to help, but rescuing people who don't want your help is not helping. Friends, it's not helping. So when I got sober, I swung even harder to control because not only could I feel my own discomfort, I could feel everyone else's too. And that led to pretty controlling behavior. If I'm 100% honest, want to keep everyone safe. And oh my God, just making sure no one's going to get hurt or harmed or all of that fear around my dad's death. All that trauma really came up and I noticed it. And it was under the guise of love, my rescuing and fixing. But this obsession, what I learned was that releasing the need to make everything okay and better for everyone else, life settles. Actually, life settles. And everyone has their own path. And so what if instead of rescuing, fixing, I step into leadership and I just guide my own self and I focus on my own light and energy? And that is really what inspired those around me, not making them meditate, but actually just walking the energy out. And then they see your vibration shift and they're curious. But the truth is, they have all their own lessons too. And who are we to say that we know what those are? So when we can look at lessons and maybe even at suffering, and this is going to sound weird, but as lessons for people to learn, you don't want to remove those. You don't want to remove the lessons. They are here to learn them. So support, yes. Lovingly, yes. From overflow, yes. Inspire, yes. Rescue, no. No, it's not going to help. It doesn't help. That's when things actually get to be more okay. It's not because we force it, but because we stop interfering. Oh, I'm just going to leave that mic drop there. Lesson number 9, boundaries are acts of love. The B word, I said the B word, you guys. So when I look back, sobriety was about me saying yes to myself. It was about saying no to what no longer felt good, to the people and things that were pulling me off my center. No amount of love or approval is worth leaving yourself for. That is what I learned. No amount of love or approval or validation is worth leaving yourself for. And when I look back now, I can see that I was drinking down the discomfort of friggin' abandoning myself. I was numbing the feelings that weren't acknowledged by others, but mostly by me. I bought the lie that my feelings didn't matter until I was 9 years old. And I walked out that lie. I walked out that story until 10 years ago, until I decided that enough was enough and that it was time to make my alignment and my joy and how I was feeling my number one priority. And now this is what I teach. This is what I practice. I still am practicing it as much as I'm preaching it because that's what I believe about these deep life lessons. And sobriety and the courage to feel allowed me to begin to say yes to me and no to what no longer works, whether it was alcohol or situations, and I should still say, still allows me, the sobriety and the courage to feel allows me to say no to people who don't align or don't fully honor me, or to situations that don't feel good, or to opportunities that just, they might be beautiful, but they just don't feel like a full yes for me. So at first, my boundaries did look like big, tall fences, as I said earlier. I swung from being this giant yes person to an F no person. And it felt like overnight. And I think that it did make a lot of people uncomfortable in my life because they really were like, oh my God, what is happening here? I had trained them to believe that I was a certain way, that was who I was, but that was not who I was. That was me in people pleasing. That was me in placating. That was me in a lot of discomfort, actually, and a lot of unhappiness and disconnect. So what I've learned is that boundaries aren't actually here to shut people out. They are agreements that we uphold with ourselves. And I've gotten a lot softer about it. I see boundaries as sacred contracts that we get it to invite others into. So I could have done that a lot better, but I did my best, right? But now I get to see them and speak them. And I feel like in my family, especially, I've got really beautiful communication, relationships that I pride myself on because I'm able to say, hey, that doesn't work for me, or hey, this didn't feel good. And can we talk about this? Or I'd prefer it if this, or just share my friggin' truth. And I've got people around me now who honor and love me for my truth. So that is a big deal. One thing I want to say about boundaries before we wrap up with lesson 10 is that saying no, thank you isn't rejection. And I feel like in my family, no felt shameful. Being told no, people having boundaries felt like shame because you make it maybe potentially about you. So if you have that experience, just know that saying no, thank you isn't rejection. It's just redirection. It's choosing alignment over approval. And when you frame boundaries as acts of love for yourself and for others, they stop feeling the harshness and start to feel the love, actually. And that's what I want to call in. So boundaries, loving boundaries allow me to serve from overflow instead of depletion. They allow me to be in loving relationships that are mutual and healthy, that are, yeah, win-wins. And they remind me that my well-being is not up for negotiation. That to me is self-love in action. Lesson 10, joy is active, my friends. Oh, I just got full shivers as we're wrapping up. Joy is a daily homecoming, actually. Joy is not just for the lucky ones who are born with an extra glimmer, you know? Joy is active. It requires us to show up for it. It requires us to come home to ourselves each and every day. If I were to give some examples, okay, so Connie is a joy facilitator and a life celebrant. She's coming in next week. and she's going to share her story with us. And looking at her, she's the epitome of a glimmer, a joy blast. You just looking at her, you're like, you're some sort of fairy angel, you know? She's like Mary Poppins. She's singing in fields and animals are flying around. And the truth is, Connie has been through it. She's been through it. And that's why she gets to experience this now. So it's knowing that you could take Dr. Deb, you know, another one of our joy facilitators. She's walked her own path of chronic pain. She wrote a book called Chronic Joy, literally. And now she's walking others through it. But she moved through so much suffering in order to glean the light and the joy and the hope, and is now inspiring that others. Again, I have actually hundreds of examples of people who are showing up in the world and vibrantly sharing their light too, because they have been through the darkness. They had the courage to move through it, to reclaim their joy, and now they're teaching others to do the same. And this is what I'm doing. I'm not creating a community of spiritual bypassers or Pollyannas, whether it's the joy nest or facilitator or with clients, whatever that looks like. We're building a community of badass joy warriors, those who are courageously honoring their feelings, using their minds as magic wands, and taking inspired action into alignment over and over again, because joy is a practice. And the reason why I'm telling you all of this is so that you know it's not just for the few, it's for all of those willing to show up for it. So the bottom line for me is that joy needs space. Without it, life gets chaotic and loud and busy, and we're in all the doing and we're forgetting ourselves left and right, and we miss the whispers calling us back. Space is what allows us to notice when we've drifted off track. It's what allows us to set and honor our boundaries. It's what allows us to course correct with compassion instead of collapse. Woo! Woo! I love when they come through. Course correction with compassion rather than collapse. And this is what holds the rhythm for our lives, okay? A sacred pause reminds us of who we are. This is, to me, the daily practice of joy. And I like to call it a daily ritual because it feels so sacred. A few minutes each morning with my daily joy journal, my breath, my intention, meditation is simple, but it is life-changing. And it's what I recommend for everyone. This to me is how I remember myself before the world asks me to be anything else. I meet myself. Meet yourself before you meet the world. Okay, that could be another lesson. Joy requires homecoming. This is what I know to be true. It requires it every single day, not just once in a while, to sit with ourselves, to soften into presence, and to choose alignment again and again. So my friends, 10 years of sobriety have shown me that freedom is not about what you take away. Again, it makes me so emotional. It's about what you get back. I got my life back. I got my self-trust back. I got my joy back by making how I feel a priority. If you're listening and you're struggling, please hear this. You are not alone. Sobriety is about deciding to feel. And that decision changed everything for me. And I just want to say, wherever you are at, joy is not waiting for some perfect version of you. Okay. Joy is here now. It's in the courage to feel what's true and the willingness to start again each and every day. Joy is who you are. It just needs the space to remember. If you are at the beginning of what feels like I have tons of tools, just check out the Academy of Joyful Living. Find me on social media. I've got lots of opportunities to support, and it's my joy to literally do this at all levels. So just know that there's support for you. And as you carry these 10 lessons, my invitation is simple. Choose the courage to feel. Choose compassion. Choose curiosity. Choose to show up and actively practice joy, even in the mess. And 10 years from now, you will thank yourself for beginning today. And one day in the not so distant future, what feels like a cycle of pain can be your power story too. And that is so inspiring. And I will happily hold this possibility for you until you're ready. Just really knowing we're all here to light it up from the inside out together. Our stories are never fully written, my friends. We get the opportunity to write them every single day. And every new moment is the opportunity to align with who we truly are: peace and love and joy. And that's what this whole journey is about, is homecoming. So again, sobriety was my doorway back home to me. Each of us has our own doorway. Maybe yours isn't alcohol. Maybe it's work or scrolling or the need to keep everyone else happy while you feel disconnected. Whatever it is, the invitation is the same. Come home. It's never too late. Thank you for celebrating with me on this very special milestone. I am sending so much love and always cheering you on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and one last thing before we wrap up. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to invite you to a live experience of this work. Come join me in the Joy Nest, a soft place to land with others who are ready to show up, make joy a priority, and walk out their dreams in real time. That's what we're going to be doing together. Feel free to check it out in the show notes. And finally, if something today spoke to you, share it, tag me, DM me. Absolutely love hearing from you. I love hearing your reflections, your stories, your thoughts, your ahas. That just actually lights me up. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Until next week, shine on. Mwah.